Great. We can either start, let me start actually by talking about the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum poem, okay? Because I
Okay.
told you that I had written a golden shovel, and somebody asked what a golden shovel was, and I couldn't quite remember what it was. The thing about a golden shovel, most people do them just to one line of a poem, and then it's a manageable length. But I decided I wanted to do it to the whole of Lucille Clifton's Miss Rosie. So we read Miss Rosie last time. If you look at the last word of each line, when I watch you wrapped up like garbage, that and so on. So go back to the top, okay? You can see that I've used her poem as a kind of skeleton for mine, okay? So I wrote this after the first time that I went to the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, which is not very old and it's absolutely overwhelmingly powerful. Um, a golden shovel for Lucille Clifton after Miss Rosie. One, I am reading the names of the lynched when the guard asks how I'm doing, and I start to cry. In one photo, crowds watch a body burn. You wouldn't believe their glee as the man is wrapped in flame. A father in the picture lifts his boy up on his shoulders. To the mob, it is like a holy war. They're doing God's will, getting garbage off the streets. Now I am sitting in one of the tiny film cubicles, surrounded by images from Freedom Summer, by blown up headlines about the missing men. It is 1964. The bodies have been found. There's the smell of death, legs poking from the mud, and deliquescing flesh of two other boys found in the river during the search. Too long dead to identify. Old grief and guilt, like a knobby, rotten potato. How the past peels open when I see the photos or hear the ringing freedom songs. When the guard says kindly, if you want to talk, I can't talk. Just flap my hand around. Later, I watch a teacher with her students. In this museum, she says, you will see what Black people, and sometimes white, fought for here in Mississippi: the right to work, to learn, to vote. Your freedoms don't come cheap, she says, for in the old days, the white man's word was law. But how could we walk in the shoes of the man who was lynched for bringing suit, with the man who was lynched for hogging the road, with a woman and her little sons and daughter whose husband, father died because he wouldn't toe the line, like mighty trees cut down, like holy flames snuffed out. I tell myself, no more sitting. Let me walk among those who fought and those still fighting, still waiting. Two, I think of your courage, Lucille, for in 1982, before that dignified white audience, you told how your great great grandmother, the first Lucille, was on your mind the night you came to read at Virginia. Not lynched in Virginia like all the others, you told us, but legally hanged because they respected her. Next, you said, shot her baby's white father from his horse. My week's little concerns drained away, my papers degrade, the grocery list, the cluttered house. And I saw the crossroads. I saw dust and pines and broom sedge, heard the clattering hooves, heard him say, for God's sake, Lucille, don't. Or maybe nothing at all. Later, when you came to my house for the reception, silent and shy, I sat on the steps, a scared new hire among all the senior professors, eager just to watch you as they shook your hand as you balanced your plate. Saying goodbye, you touched my cheek and told me, your eyes are so radiant. I will remember you. Three, in the photos, jeering crowds surround protesters wet with sweat and coke and ketchup poured on their heads, their brown and white faces grim at lunch counters. Any pocket or bag could hide a gun. I was the protesters' age, but was not there the summer of burning churches. My mother was a protective, cautious woman who went to church, taught school, who forbade me to go on the buses for Freedom Summer, who used to say she'd die if I married a Negro. What is it like to be a guard here, to comfort white women who weep, to be surrounded every day by the history of your people's suffering, the fire, the noose, the prison whip called Black Annie that made scar lace out of even the best looking back? Not your grandma, not your mother, not your own sweet gal was safe in Mississippi or in Arkansas, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, the Carolinas, Georgia. What's it like to be a guard? To know that for stealing 5 pounds of ham, they used to give a black man 10 years at Parchman, then to rent him out for convict labor until he'd starve, until he'd be broken. Yet in the darkest corners of Parchman, the freedom riders sang and called on each other's courage, on the conscience and heart of the nation. And you, Lucille, paying homage to your own lost Georgia Rose, what was it like to be you? I think of you with love. I stand in this museum knowing that you lifted me up and that you guide me still through what I've done and what I've failed to do. Your kindness and the guards in the midst of so much cruelty, such destruction. Thinking of these, how can I not take courage? How can I not stand up?
Great. That's a great poem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and that's very personal um, memory, a little uh, insight into you. Is did I miss it, or do you record what the guard responded?
When he responded, where? When?
Well, didn't you ask him what it was like?
No, no, that's rhetorical. That's me thinking later.
Oh, oh, okay.
That's me thinking later. Because that would be, an awkward position to put him in, you know.
What I think about is the parallel that's created between the guard and Lucille that they're both people who are honoring their past and standing by and yet respecting it and being deeply involved in it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful poem. I just, I have so many questions about it. I'll only ask one or two, but the empathy you show and how I feel that as a white woman, you're like, well, golly, can I really understand? But the idea that you have the courage to stand up and bear witness is really, really powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
I forgot my questions. Yeah, how could we walk in their shoes? Oh, coming to the crossroads, like, whoa, those crossroads. Yeah.
I know. She stood up in front of all the tenure professors at UVA, like the bastion of white authority, and said, I've never been in the state of Virginia. This is where my great grandmother was shot off her horse. And the audience kind of goes, like that. And she says she was shot because and hanged, or no, I'm sorry, she shot the father of her baby off his horse. And they hanged her because they respected her too much. So that's the first Lucille. And
Hmm.
when she says, I'm from Dahomey women, and when she talks about her name, Lucille, these are sources of great strength for her, great pride. Um,
Do you
but
have regret that your mom didn't let you go to those marches? And is that kind of part of the resolution that, you couldn't do that,
Bob
but you,
Dassler, do you guys remember about Bob Dassler? He went down.
Yeah.
He went down on one of the freedom buses. But I can't say that realistically I have regret because I was a very naive 17-year-old, you know.
hmm
But I sure did want to go. I sure did want to just, get myself down there.
hmm
So I suppose it's fate that now I live here, you know.
hmm
Where were
But I
you?
mean,
Where were
she
you
was,
live? Sorry.
huh?
Where were you living at the time?
Berkeley, California.
Oh, well, then it would have been a cross-country trip for a 17-year-old.
It would have been. I mean, she was
That's
just realistic. She knew what a fool I was, you know. Um, yeah,
I
yeah.
I really felt a kinship for some of the things that you said about yourself, especially about what I have done and what I have failed to do. Because like you, I was I think I was too young in the respect that I wouldn't have been ready in terms of experience or anything else to join the Freedom Summer protesters. But I I had a grandmother that who said she'd die if I married a Negro, only she said a Negra.
Hmm.
She was born in Georgia, raised in Tennessee. And and I had that in my heritage, but even then as a what, an armchair liberal like my parents, I knew that I that wasn't me, but I hadn't figured out how to act in the world.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I love some of these lines, though. Some of the details you put in. I saw the dust and pines and broom sedge, heard the clattering hoofs. I mean, you find those details that just take us right there. I mean, then we too are standing at the crossroads, smelling those smells and
yeah.
seeing that and feeling the whole thing.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, this poem comes from a lot of different things. It comes from following the civil rights movement in high school on TV and in the newspapers. It comes from the night I was babysitting and I glanced in at the New York Times and I saw the headline that the bodies of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman have been found in their earthen grave outside Philadelphia, Mississippi. And it comes from as a freshman at Pomona, they had a SNCC book of photographs in the bookstore, and I looked at it, and that's where I first saw pictures of lynched victims. And I read about the two guys wearing core t-shirts, bodies that couldn't even be identified anymore. They were found in the Pearl River. And because they were wearing core t-shirts, they'd been lynched and killed. And then when I taught in Belgium, I learned about Emmett Till. It's like you get these things bit by bit, but then also Lucille Clifton, I mean, some of you have been terrified assistant professors. I was a terrified assistant professor at Virginia because, it's like I was one of three untenured women there in the English department. None of us got tenure. I was the only one who had babies. And my dissertation director said, if anybody can do it at Virginia, you'll do it. But like that was sort of like good luck. You're walking to the gallows. And I was scared all the time. And then
scared
when
because you may not get tenure, or
no, I
scared
just was I just was intimidated. It's like people would say, "Tell me about the book you're working on." And or at one point I asked somebody, I said, "Are you working on a book?" And he goes, "You never ask if you're working on a book. I'm working on two books." And I'm like, "Gah!" I mean, and I'm just kind of I used to be a much more intimidatable person than I am,
good for
you
you.
know?
I mean, good
Yeah,
for you now.
seriously. Yeah, look at me now. I'm a rude, you know. But But I was scared all the time. And then when Lucille Clifton, who's this famous poet, and they did let me bring her to give a reading. They let me bring some people. And when she made that personal comment to me, it just cut through all the formality. And it was something that I'll just never forget. It was like such a wonderful thing. So this poem
Uh,
comes out of all those bits of
You
things.
know, I have two quick things. Number one, I really like the way you emulated her style in this poem, the
Thank you.
no caps and kind of just paid homage to that. The other comment I want to make is that this reminded me of what I experienced when I visited the Holocaust Museum in Washington
Yeah.
and started at the top and worked my way down. And I really was almost speechless with what I was seeing. I mean, it was so complete and thorough. And I finally understood because I'd always wondered, how did people put up with this? How did they let this happen?
Hmm.
And that museum captures that so well, how incrementally, like the frog boiling in water kind of thing, it just sort of seeped in and became a reality. But I share that feeling of standing in a museum and looking at something so horrible and so troubling and just sad and not having words to
Yeah.
speak. So I really thought this was a terrific poem.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
What's hap?
Leslie.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mute, Leslie. Leslie, you're mute.
Sorry. So, you talked about being terrified as, a new professor and everything, but I think you did a good job of showing why and how Black people have lived in a constant state of this kind of terror.
Yeah.
In your case, you're going to be um, ignored and downplayed because you're a woman. But, they talk about how there's the statistics when I was doing that, the gerontology thing, I had a class in multicultural health, and Black people miscarry babies
Hmm.
much, much more often
Hmm.
than white people. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have anything to do with education or what your economic level is or anything. And it's sort of attributed to uh, decades of institutionalized terror,
Stress.
stress. Yeah,
Also, lack of health care,
yeah.
lack of prenatal health care.
But I think you gave us all these instances, specific instances of what the treatment was that caused that. And then you mention yourself feeling, on a milder level, but still importantly, intimidated and disregarded and all of that. So I thought that was another nice thing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's amazing what people got lynched for. It's just amazing. I had no idea. It's like,
And oh,
yeah, go ahead.
just to be clear, you were intimidated because you were a woman or because you were just a young professor?
Combination, also because I was from the West Coast. Most everybody was from the Ivies, you know, but also because, I mean, there I was, like, it took me 10 years to write my dissertation. I had three kids in grad school. My husband at that time, John, he was also in grad school. We were like really poor. And then I got this fancy job. And I don't have the chutzpah to say, well, here I am. I just don't. It took me like, okay, I'll tell you a story. Toward the end of my time at UVA, I went to a Willa Cather conference in Nebraska, because I was working on a book on Willa Cather by that time. The woman directing the conference, she told somebody later, she literally thought that I was medically insane because I was acting so happy all the time. And the reason I was acting so happy all the time is that people actually wanted to hear what I had to say. She's like, what's with her? What's with her? She's just bouncing around. I mean, Virginia's different now. It really seems to be different now, but I mean, it had a reputation on, you know, one of the senior professors referred to the endowed chairs and the folding chairs, and we were the folding chairs.
So,
No,
what year was this, and how old were you?
I went there in 81 and I left in 88, and I was 34 when I went there.
So even at 34, you felt. Had you taught before, Anne?
Oh, yeah, good Lord. Sure, I taught
So,
at Pomona as a substitute, and I taught at Scripps for 3 years, and I taught at the University of Laverne.
so it
And so I
wasn't
had,
the teaching and the
no, it
material
wasn't
that
the teaching. I
intimidated
wasn't
you.
scared at teaching. It was the holding your own among senior white male professors.
Well,
You
I'm
know,
sure you held your own, whether they thought so or not.
Yeah,
Uh, so you were just worried about. That's interesting to me that you were. The pressure was just purely on peer acknowledgement.
Yeah, it was mostly internalized. But I mean, I used to wait until the hall was clear before I'd go to the bathroom. And then I'd
Oh my
scuttle down the
God.
hall.
Oh my
And then
God.
I'd
Reminds me
scuttle
of
down the
Hidden
hall.
Figures or something.
Yeah, I know.
Tony,
How?
Tony, I'm sure all the women in this meeting could tell stories, so I'll be
Oh,
succinct. But I started my catering business in 1980, and about 83, I think, I was anyway, I was visiting and writing a story about a very, very fancy French restaurant in San Francisco for the Sausalito Review, which no longer exists. But the French trained chef said, "Oh, you own a food business? What do you do when you are menstruating?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, if you go in the kitchen, it will curdle the sauces."
oh my
Ha!
God.
It's misogyny is deep and everywhere. And if you're dealing with somebody like me with low self-esteem and some abuse in my history, you walk into these situations and it could be
Hard.
terrifying. Terrifying. But I wanted to ask you a quickie.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't remember, and I have an idea, but I could be wrong. Why did you decide to use the shovel form? Using one word from Miss Rosie
The
in
golden shovel.
a golden shovel. Yeah. Was
Just
that
as a dare, just as something to do.
to have some discipline around it, or?
Yeah, uh-huh. Because I had read other golden shovels. The original golden shovel form is after the poem that we looked at, We Were Cool, We Quit School. Gwendolyn Brooks's poem, Seven at the Golden Shovel. And so other people thought, oh, the golden shovel. And they invented this form called the golden shovel. And a friend of mine wrote a golden shovel that's in one of her books. And then I thought, well, I'll just try a golden shovel. So that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to find a short poem to do a golden shovel because as you can see, this already got pretty long, which is why I said most people use a line for their golden shovel. They just do like one line. Um, yeah.
But the
So
brilliance of your ending using the golden shovel is just worth noting because her ending is I stand up, and your ending is how can I not
yeah.
stand up? It's beautiful.
Thank you. Lucille Clifton was just a poet that I really revere. She's an amazing poet and such an important kind of moral force. So let's look at some of her poems, okay?
Okay. Is this a different document then?
Yeah, it's the one called Lucille Clifton.
Okay. You see that?
It's still a thing at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum.
Okay. I guess I have to reshare.
You have to close this share and open a
Yeah.
new share.
I
Okay.
think there's a way around that, and I'm just learning how to do this. My apologies. But I'll, by the time it's like a
Hey,
lot of
Otis,
other
I
things,
only see the
by
top
the
of
time we're done
Yeah.
with this, I'll know what I'm doing.
Can you adjust your screen, Otis? We're just seeing the top of your head.
Oh, well, that's the best
There
part
you
of it.
go. Now you have a head. Yeah, we can only see your hair. So, Tony, let's scroll down because we got through the first five poems last time. We talked about that. Talked about
Say
homage to
when.
my hips. And this one is the last one that we looked at.
Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. These are darker poems, and I want to look at some of them with you. So, this is one that she wrote about her father. And it took her decades to be ready to write about this. Shapeshifter poems. One, the legend is whispered in the women's tent, how the moon, when she rises full, follows some men into themselves and changes them there. The season is short but dreadful. Shapeshifters. They wear strange hands. They walk through the houses at night. Their daughters do not know them. Two, who is there to protect her from the hands of the father? Not the windows which see and say nothing, not the moon, that awful eye. not the woman she will become with her scarred tongue. Ooh, ooh, ooh. The owl laments into the evening. Who will protect her, this pretty little girl? 3. If the little girl lies still enough, shut enough, hard enough, shapeshifter may not walk tonight. The full moon may not find him here, the hair on him bristling. Keep going down, rising. 4. The poem at the end of the world is the poem the little girl breathes into her pillow, the one she cannot tell, the one there is no one to hear. This poem is a political poem, is a war poem, is a universal poem, but it's not about these things. This poem is about one human heart. This poem is the poem at the end of the world.
Mm.
So, one thing I noticed about this is in section 4, the way she acknowledges that she's writing a kind of political poem, a universal poem, but that she doesn't try to write, quote, a political poem. She's writing a personal poem, and she understands that it has a very wide application. This poem is about one human heart, one pretty little girl, you know. So, anybody have comments on this one, Shapeshifter?
I think it's a very effective way of communicating that feeling of potential, abuse. I mean, what I'm getting from this poem is that this little girl is just dreading this man coming and abusing her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
I was interested in the beginning when she starts out with this archetypal legend that's, we're going back to when people were in tents and the women were in the women's tents,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like the Red Tent, that novel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's it's almost like it's a force of nature. Like the man can't help himself. He is like a werewolf. He's transfigured by the moon,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And shapeshifters in so many cultures are terrifying because what if the thing you think you know
Mm-hmm.
changes
Mm-hmm.
totally? That's really
Right.
a terrifying thing.
Right.
Well, this is her father, her own father doing this.
Right, but then he's not because no father
Right,
would do that, you know.
Right.
right.
And then I just love that line at the poem at the end of the world. So I'd like to hear what people think about that line, the poem at the end of the world.
Well, I noticed it too, and I was wondering whether, on the one hand, it sounds almost like an Old Testament prophecy, but on the other hand, I wondered if it was the personal end of the world as opposed to the cosmic end of the world.
Yeah, I interpreted it as a personal statement. It was the end of the world of innocence for this little girl. That's the way I read it.
Other thoughts on that? Hi, Peter.
Well, Leslie, you asked the question. What do you think?
Well, I asked the question because I think I would think so. It's the end of a world of childhood and of innocence, but also maybe it has such inherent evil in it that it might actually be that's how it's connected to war. And it's about an issue, but it's also about a person, an issue that has such evil in it that it could cause the destruction of the world as we know it. I mean, it's interesting to me that she ties it. It's a war poem,
Hmm.
Think about all the women and children who are raped during war. Think of all the abuses that occur during war when you take somebody who is a nice guy and you send him to war and he shifts into somebody who commits atrocities. And, I'm sitting here, my granddaughter's boyfriend is voluntarily going into officers training program, and he is absolutely the nicest guy, and his father is career military, and he's feeding him all this stuff about how, oh, it's going to be a piece of cake and all this, and I'm terrified of
Hmm.
that experience might do to him.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think there's some shape shifting that goes on. I mean, for me, that might be the connection to war and the end of the world.
It's also a war poem because it's an act, this poem is an act of aggression,
Mm.
justified aggression against the shapeshifter, you know? But yeah, I mean, this is the poem at the end of the world, beyond which nothing else need be or can be said, you know? So you're right, there is something kind of apocalyptic about it.
Reminds me of the Stanford experiment.
What's that?
Well, with the prison guards and the prisoners playing roles. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
At what point would they stop torturing?
Well,
They would no, they would become dehumanized. The guys who were
yeah,
playing the role of
Yeah,
guard would change and start being very abusive.
yeah,
yeah. Without there was no prompting on the part of the facilitators. They weren't telling them to do that.
right.
It's just you're the guards and these are prisoners. And
And you
then
can
what
do it. Yeah,
emerged was horrible behavior.
yeah, yeah. I do remember now. Yeah.
Talking about Abu Ghraib.
No, the Stanford experiment.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
besides that, there's a little bit of, let's see if I can express this. By making her father into a shapeshifter, it certainly doesn't exonerate him, but this is a little girl who loves her father.
mhm,
And I think one of the continuing confusions about even the Stanford experiment or this poem or what happened to Lucille is, yeah, Leslie, how can your perfectly nice son-in-law, will he become one of these guys that gets off on the sound of his rifle? It's a huge question, that's all. And I
mhm.
think she
Do
asks
we
it.
do we know if she was abused?
Lucille?
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. She finally was ready to talk about it. Yeah. Okay.
By her father?
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
this is
really?
talking about. Yeah, she's finally ready to, bring this into her poetry. Yeah. Let's go on to the next one, which is Poem About Her Mother. Also grim. I told you that her mother was a poet. Her mother died of diabetes at age 44. And Lucille missed her forever after. Fury, her mama. Remember this. She is standing by the furnace. The coals glisten like rubies. Her hand is crying. Her hand is clutching a sheaf of papers, poems. She gives them up. They burn jewels into jewels. Her eyes are animals. Each hank of her hair is a serpent's obedient wife. She will never recover. Remember, there is nothing you will not bear for this woman's sake. That's pretty self explanatory. It's just that, I mean, she didn't hate her father, and her father was not, you know, an evil monster, but he did these things that are hard to forgive, really hard to forgive. And one of the things was he didn't feel that his wife should be wasting her time writing poetry. So he pretty much coerced her into burning her poems up in the furnace,
Hmm.
which is one reason that Lucille was a poet, you know. I don't know anything about her mom's poetry. I don't know if it was like, a lot of it, a little bit of it. All I know is that this is something she writes about in her memoir. So let's keep going so that we can get through a few more poems. So now she also, I wanted to look at some of the poems that she writes about history. I am accused of tending to the past as if I made it, as if I sculpted it with my own hands. I did not. This past was waiting for me when I came, a monstrous, unnamed baby, and I, with my mother's itch, took it to breast and named it history. She is more human now, learning languages every day, remembering faces, names, and dates. When she is strong enough to travel on her own, beware, she will. So, some decades ago, I imagine that this poem came out of people feeling free to tell her that she was, dwelling on the past, exaggerating the past. They don't want to hear about this past, the past of, racial oppression, the past of all these things, violence, suffering. At one point in another poem that I forgot to print out for you, she says, she says, oh gosh, what is it? She says something like, people always want me to talk about the past, but they want me to talk about their past, not mine. You know, it's like how handy that would be, right? So this is, a power poem. When I used to teach poetry, I'd talk about power poems. There are poems that are declaring your power. There are poems that are conjuring power within the poem for you as a poet, for the poem as a poem. And this is a power poem. She is more human now, this history, more human now, learning languages every day, remembering faces, names, and dates. When she's strong enough to travel like a little child on her own, beware, she will. You know?
You know, something about all three of these poems, and I'm pretty sure some of the others we read last time, there's a kind of a finality to it at the very end. She kind of puts her foot down and says, in effect, this is the way it is, and this is the way it will always be.
Yeah.
And whether it refers to the little girl growing up and traveling, or the loss of innocence in the first poem about the father, or the unconditional love for her mother, no matter what happens.
Hmm. You're absolutely right. She is a poet of strong endings. And
Yeah, I
Peter?
I do think though that the poem is larger if you see history as, yes, in the first instance, the particular history of racial oppression that she's inherited, but also as just history, whatever happened in the past. And if that's the case, it's a way of saying history will act, but not with in a foregone conclusion. That is neither the conclusion of progress nor the even kind of tighter drawn conclusion of Marxism, which is progress of a particular kind in particular stages. It's going to move around on its own. And the only trouble with that reading is, of course, if history does that, it already is doing it.
Yeah.
But I still sense that when she capitalizes history, and she rarely capitalizes anything, she's talking about something that the boundaries of which are kind of hard to define. And I think that's good.
Hmm. It's true. That's a good point.
I I was interested in the way she talks about history as a monstrous baby,
Mhm.
and that when it grows up and becomes strong, then it's sort of like because the victors write the history,
Mhm.
and a lot of history, as you said, Anne, was somebody else's past or their version of it rather than yours. But it seems like she sort of is, it sounds sort of like a Shakespearean, it will out. This is, watch out. My truth is going to be told. And
Yeah,
it's sort of a warning, I think.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too.
I I related to it like when I first had to study history in high school. I just didn't give a shit about it. It was a bunch of generals and wars and changes of government and so forth. But the older I get, the more I like uh, reading history, and it's like I love when she says here, the past was waiting for me when I came. So
Hmm.
the history was out there waiting for me, and then I came to it. And
Hmm.
now it has grown into something that really does affect me when I read about it. Uh, so I love the image of history as a living thing that is growing up and then becomes fearsome, which it has in my case, at
Hmm.
least important, if not fearsome.
Hmm. Virginia Woolf at one point says, all these infinitely obscure lives wait to be recorded, And I think that's like a really wonderful statement because think about all the lives going on that remain absolutely invisible. And of course, for Lucille Clifton, when she was writing, there was so much about African American history, about her family history, about American race relations that just wasn't getting told. I mean, it was getting told, but not enough.
It was
Not
getting
yet.
told by people like her and Mary Baraka
Yeah.
and others,
Yeah.
but it wasn't getting told by well,
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr., who had far more influence than anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
And can I ask you a
told.
question? Did you say the Virginia Woolf quote, all these infinitely
All these
obscure
infinitely
lies
obscure
or lies?
lives, lives,
With a V.
Lives,
Okay.
lives.
I like the lies too, which is what I heard
Yeah.
first.
These infinitely obscure lies. Yeah, live is a
Okay, thanks.
recorded. Yeah.
Uh, One more remark about race relations. This was a shocking experience to me. When I was with Junior Walker, I was the only white guy and often the only white guy in the neighborhood. And uh, one day we were on the bus and we were traveling to Myrtle Beach and we got lost and the bus driver drove into a white country club, a white golf club.
Ooh.
and and there was a guard house outside, and it was pretty clear we were in a place where there weren't a lot of black people. Right, this is 1971, so this is not recent. And the uh, the guys at the bus are all Northerners, and the bus driver had a speech impediment, and he asked, trying to ask the guard for instructions, and the guard was polite enough. And then Junior stepped in because the guard couldn't understand what the bus driver was saying. I don't want to give you too many details. But anyway, the guard turns and yells, "Hey!" And he yells to maybe his superior or a member of the course. He says, "Hey, this boy here wants directions to."
Yeah.
And the guys in the bus went, "Oh my God! Did you hear he called Junior boy?"
Yeah.
And uh, the funny thing was, Junior didn't care at all.
Yeah.
Uh, Junior was raised in the South, and the Northern guys. So anyway, my point is that we, I think I anyway, underestimate the degree to which many black people are not pained every day by this because they're so hardened to it and they so write it off as just part of reality. I think Junior was like that. Yeah, he's a racist. It's not my. Who cares? And some people can rise above it. Other people are terribly, like, uh, just injured by it and hurt by it. I don't know how they aren't psychotic, because you just don't know why somebody treated you the way they did. What was that, just because they're a jerk, or is it because I'm black, or what? You could never figure it out. Whereas we could, as white people, assume they were jerks, and it wasn't because of our race. Anyway, enough about that. But I get some of that from her, the injury, but yet she seems, and I don't know her, a little more hardened to it than maybe a white liberal would be. Can I say it that way?
Yeah.
Pretty hardened.
Yeah.
Had to be pretty hardened. Sure. But that doesn't mean that I mean, you can be hardened with calloused feet, but you poke a needle into your foot, you're going to hit
Well,
pain.
I realize it's not like the pain isn't there, but it's something that's so common and something so often endured that they have to adjust to it by uh, flicking it off somehow, shaking it off.
I think in many ways she could shake it off because when she was here, I think in 2006, um, I had a great time with her. There was a very good poetry reading, I think, and then we went out to dinner, and the conversation was general. It was not about books and publishers and literary awards, and she just seemed like a terrifically friendly person, not nosy, but inquisitive and curious about other people. And many of the good poets that came here didn't seem that way at all. Like Charles Simic is a fine poet, and he was polite enough, but he acted like the people he was talking to weren't really there. And I think for him, they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. Deborah, you were going to say something a minute
Oh,
ago.
it's a huge topic, the whole psychology of healing and abuse and so on. But I remember somebody saying to me once about a young child that had had a rough situation, and he or she said, "Oh, but children are so resilient." And I said, "Yeah, but do you want them to have to be?"
Yeah,
You know, and
exactly.
That's
and
one
I
side
think,
of it. Another
yeah.
side is what Virginia Woolf said, children never forget.
Yeah.
That's also
Yes, right. And so I think there's a balance in this poem because when she talks about history, learning languages every day, the history of the African American in America is one that hadn't been told. And learning the language of telling about
Mhm.
the abuse is a way to perhaps I, heal might be too melodramatic a word, but just bringing it to everyone's attention and for her to have the courage to do it. So I think the idea of history learning languages is about her as a poet learning to say this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go down and look at least one more. Okay. Oh, God, I love this poem. This is an eco poem, and it's in the Eco Poetry Anthology. I love it. It's got one of my favorite lines of poetry in it. The beginning of the end of the world. Cockroach population possibly declining. News report. Maybe the morning the roaches walked into the kitchen, bold with they bad selves, marching up out of the drains, not like soldiers, like priests, grim and patient in the sink. And when we ran the water, trying to drown them as if they were soldiers, they seemed to bow their sad heads for us, not at us, and march single file away. Maybe then, the morning we rose from our beds as always, listening for the bang of the end of the world. Maybe then, when we heard only the tiny tapping and saw them dark and prayerful in the kitchen. Maybe then, when we watched them turn from us faithless at last and walk in a long line away. That is one of my favorites. And the line, bold with they bad selves, is a line that tickles me every time I see it. So notice that this is an incomplete sentence, right? And so it's asking us to fill in what's the rest of the sentence, you know? Any takers?
Bring it up to the title again, Tony. I need to see that.
The beginning of
The
the end
beginning of
of
the
the
end of the
world.
world. Right. Well, I mean the implied rest of the sentence is, that is the beginning of the end of the world. And I guess it's more powerful that she doesn't say that.
People always say after everything else is destroyed, there will still be cockroaches. That's like a little eco fact, you know?
I remember the rustling in the kitchen. I had a apartment in Laverne one year, off campus, and that's the first night we were there. That's how we had the wrestling in the cabinets, and we ran in there and opened them. They were everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so, I mean, the cockroaches, yeah, Leslie?
This reminds me a little bit of my mom used to have a saying, I don't know where she got it. There might have been some poem or something. She said, and the pig got up and slowly walked away. And what she meant was somebody has done something so repulsive and disgusting that even a pig doesn't want to keep company with it.
Yeah,
So what I
yeah,
get at the end here is that these cockroaches have been putting up with humanity and putting up with humanity. And finally, they turn from us faithless at last and walk away. They've just given up on humanity. Humanity's not worth even consorting with anymore. So
yeah.
that's what it seemed like to me.
My completion of the poem was never to be seen again. Something like that. That this is the initial call of the end of the world.
This poem just cracks me up. I think it's so funny and so clever, you know? The prayerful cockroaches like priests. I mean, who ever thought of cockroaches like priests? Marching up out of the sink and then, yeah, just giving up on us, marching in a long line away. And it just dangles like that. Maybe then what? Maybe then what? Like, oops. Oh, yeah. That's what. They're going to be there and we're not.
It doesn't, you don't get any feeling that the humans will understand the implication of that. They're just
No.
going to go on blindly doing their own thing. So I guess the only other conclusion is that they're they're leaving the sinking ship. They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
abandoning the doomed.
Yeah. Going off to wherever they want to go to. Yeah. Yeah.
This is only a guess, but and the pig got up and slowly walked away. That might be from one of the Irish songs or poems about Brian O'Lynn, the proverbial fool. The only one I know is very short. Brian O'Lynn and his wife and wife's mother, they all went over the same bridge together. The bridge it broke down and the trio fell in. There's land at the bottom, says Brian O'Lynn.
That's funny.
That's just a guess, though.
So let's go away from the screen sharing just for a minute and a half so that we can see everybody's face there everybody is. So anybody have any comments on what we talked about today?
Well, Neil's back. We can see him.
Yeah, look at that. Hello, Neil. The palm trees are still waving. My God. How about you? Chime in. Tell us what's on your mind about Lucille Clifton.
Um, well, they're all powerful. I mean, it's like she never, um, there's nothing casual about anything she writes. She just takes things head on. And I wasn't in a position to comment on it, but um, when you talked about the father, one of my wife's specialties was dealing with trauma victims because they do remember. It's your whole world is changed for your whole life, and trying to bring people back from that is a real strong thing. But she didn't flinch on it. It took a long time to get to it, but when she did, she brought it home in a way that was very clear to you felt the same way. she does a really good job of bringing you into each of these situations. You know,
Hmm.
Okay, I found that poem that came from, if anybody cares, it's Irish. You got the Irish part right. It's
Mhm.
by an unknown author, The Pig. It was an evening in November, as I very well remember. I was strolling down the street in drunken pride, but my knees were all aflutter, and I landed in the gutter, and a pig came up and lay down by my side. Yes, I lay there in the gutter, thinking thoughts I could not utter, when a calling passing by did softly say, "You can tell a man who boozes by the company he chooses." And the pig got up and slowly walked
really walked
away.
away.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Well, guys, next time will be our last time, and we'll talk about the rest of the Lucille Clifton poems. So,
Mm.
All
thanks
right.
in here. Take care.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Okay.
And if you would put out the word to any of our alumni that if they have anything they think they could offer in terms of a presentation of, because I love this. I love getting together with everybody and talking about things with smart people. And so just put out the word if anybody has something they can talk about, that we would welcome their participation. And I'll send it to the Meredith list.
And you're up next, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, I guess so, unless I can get Mr. McEntee up to speed on rock and roll. We're still working on that.
Big,
Uh,
Is our
all
next
right.
session on Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to miss that. I'm having lunch with Laurie Metz and Bruce Elgin.
Ah,
oh,
Oh,
nice.
okay. Well,
Nice.
that'll be the last time that we talk
Yeah.
about poetry.
Okay, and I'm disappointed to miss it. There's some poems towards the end that I really enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Quite
guys.
tangential question. Because I wasn't here at the beginning. Have you been following what's going on at Pomona right now?
What?
They were on the front page of the LA Times.
What?
The Black Students organization has pretty much brought a major complaint that there's a lot of rampant racism still at Pomona. I can easily send you the article. But it's
It's
just
just not behind a paywall.
it's an LA Times. No, I'll send you the article because I could have sent you the link, but not everybody can gets it. I can
Yeah.
send it to you, but it's like, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna. There's a reception. I had the misfortune of giving an endowment to Pomona, so I get invited to stuff. So I'm gonna hear. So so
Maybe
I'm
you can
set.
take your money back.
No,
You can
I can.
find information about this in Student Life online and also the Claremont Courier.
Yeah,
I've been following it a little bit without following it closely.
yeah. So I'm be interested to see what comes out. I'll send you the actual article because it's not everybody can get it offline.
Yeah, that'd be
So
good. Thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I'm sorry to hear it. It's. I mean, for God's sakes, the president is an African American. The dean of students is African. I mean, it's like crazy stuff. So anyway, I'll send
Oh,
it to you.
which reminds me, I do want to tell you guys one more little, because this is the country club link. So the mayor of Clarksdale, who's now dead, was named Bill Luckett, and he was really best friends with Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah, that's what they'll look at.
And
Yeah.
he had to quit. He did quit the Clarksdale Country Club because they would not admit Morgan Freeman.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And this is like 6 years ago, something like that.
mm.
Yeah.
Leslie, did I hear you say you were going to teach something? I came
No,
in late too.
I did not say that. I said I
She's-
would. I keep saying someday when I have more time, that would be an interesting class that I could teach.
Right.
I can't do it right away.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had to take this call. Did I understand that we are going to meet one last time on Thursday?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Great.
Well, we're going to hopefully continue. It's just that
Yeah.
this is Ann's last
Yeah.
class.
Right.
Do you have anything, Otis, you could teach us?
I used to teach an advertising copywriting course, but it was pre-social media, pre-internet, so I don't think there's anything of value in it. except as an artifact.
Mm.
Like us, like me.
Well, if you think of it, if you think of a way to present it, let us know. Anyway,
Okay.
You know, it might be interesting if Otis did that and then Neil followed up with
yeah,
more recent
there you
approaches
go.
now that we have all the rest. I would like to hear about both.
Okay, I'll do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't do it by Thursday, but I can get my old notes together and kind of pull out the stuff that's has some relevance and talk about the
Well,
things that are
okay,
funny
I'll tell
because
you
they don't
what.
have them.
I'll tell you what. As we hopefully get some more ideas from the wider Pomona list, let's try to assemble a calendar so that people can know when they're going to be presenting stuff, and we'll work on that. I think that's doable.
Yeah.
Could we ask
I had
Laura
I
what
had
she'd like?
slides. I had all kinds of slides of billboards in the .com era in San Francisco and such like that. That would be fun to look at again.
But
Yeah,
could we ask Laurel if she wants to teach us some of the stuff about the Alzheimer's research?
That would be
yeah,
good.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
one of those. Okay,
Bye.
we'll see you all Thursday.
Bye,
All right.
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye,
Farewell.
everybody.